Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I've got a really great guest today. Iman Alzabi is here today, and she's going to tell us about her work that she's doing right now to help humanity. And she's got a fabulous book, you guys. It's called Finding Grace. And if you're watching me on YouTube today or any of the other videos, stations that I have my videos on, you will see her book. It's called Finding Grace, Daily Comfort for Uncertain Times. And boy, do we need this right now, let me tell you. Before I bring her on, let's sit back and relax. And let me tell you what's happening with humanity today, just because it's something I always do. And I like to just kind of bring everybody up to speed, even though some of my shows are a couple weeks out. All this stuff still is standing. So it says right here, assistant principal daughter accused of hacking homecoming election. Well, that's what we've come to, you guys. In Peru, populist frontrunner Yanni Lescano wants to spread mining wealth. That's awesome. How COVID exasperated New York City taxi drivers' longstanding debt from inflated fees. That's one of the headlines going on today. LGBTQ Catholics stung by Vatican's rebuff of same-sex reunions. Well, you know, it is in the Bible. Michelle Obama discusses new Netflix show Race, Royal Family in interview. And basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is helping to teach STEM skills to Black and Latino students. Wow. And listen to this. Newly discovered fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls reveal hidden ancient Bible texts. That's pretty interesting. Listen, there's a lot going on in humanity out there. I'll take just a moment real quick before I bring my guest on, Amin. And I just want to say that, you know, with everything that's happening with humanity, what we can do right now is spread some love. And I am serious about this. When you go out in the world, even though we've got the COVID going on, when you're on the phone, when you're on Zoom, when you're out in your car, let the other person go. And, you know, smile. They can tell that you're smiling behind that mask, okay? And be gracious and be kind and be understanding of others, because this is what's going to make a change for us right now in humanity. And it's really important that I mention that you know, really, I know sometimes it's tough, you know, life can be difficult and it's hard when people are difficult, but when they are difficult, that's when you give them even more love and it changes things. So having said that, let me read this wonderful lady's bio who we're going to talk to today, and she's going to help us find some grace. Iman Al-Zabi is a spiritual teacher who integrates the principles of harmony, beauty, and unity in her teachings, leading us to a place unknown to the mind, yet known to the heart. Wow. Her lifelong passion is understanding how the self thrives by acknowledging oneself of the divine. She's not particularly a scholar of Islam, nor is she a typical spiritual teacher. She has studied many religions and spiritual traditions and have practiced the art of spiritual inquiry to gain insight into the truth. And I think that's what we're all searching for, is the truth. Iman has distilled the essence of spirituality of Islam embodied in oneness of the divine and teaches that as the core concept for happy and fulfilling living. Iman is also a facilitator and transformational coach who helps individuals transform their relationships and careers, heal from past trauma, and live authentically. Welcome to High Road to Humanity, Iman.
Thank you for having me. Great to be on your show, Nancy.
I'm glad you're here. You know, my first question, of course, is what did you go through that inspired you to connect to the divine and figure all this stuff out? You write a little bit more that I saw in your bio, that you've had some trying times, like we all have had. Tell us your story.
Sure. So it all started with me being this, carefree child who loved to explore and do things on their own terms and their own time. And then from there on, I got married very young, at a young age. And then, I had my first baby. Then I had experienced postpartum depression.
Oh,
But it was not brief. It was about 7 years of my life, and I would be on medication on and off. Then I developed anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and it just felt like living hell. I just lost a sense of connection with my inner self, the free, spirited self. I could no longer find her. And it was all about, managing day-to-day living, having the responsibility of a child while finishing off college, the social responsibility of being married and your in-laws and all that stuff that go with it, right?
yeah, right.
And then, the next thing you know, your nervous system is, on overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, you're experiencing 1 to 2 panic attacks every day. And if you felt a panic attack before, you know how it feels. It feels like dying in the moment. You literally think you're going to die in that moment.
I've never had that, but I can only imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. It was like living hell. So I experienced that for about 7 years. I was on antidepressant and medication.
Okay.
I realized, as I was talking to my psychologist, saying to him, I have these thoughts, they're uncontrollable. I can't make them stop. And then he says to me, just tell them to stop. And I was like, really? Is that the best you can do? You have no idea what I'm going through, and you're telling me to just make it stop. I knew then all he was going to offer me was medication and an added and increased dose. And I was like, no, that's not where the answer is.
Right.
I had to look for the answer somewhere. And, by the grace of God, I stumbled upon CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy,
Okay.
then moving into energy healing and trying to see where I could go with this. The next thing I know, I was completely healed out of this anxiety and depression. I just threw away my medication, never to return back to them. And then from there on, I went on a journey of really exploring, the realm of the self, where fulfillment lies, about how can I help others, being on purpose, all these elements that are, as we know, all wonderful and great.
Right.
But,
well,
yeah.
Iman, how did you get yourself back?
It's all about self-awareness. So self-awareness was the key for me.
Okay.
Once you know who you are inside, you start to open up, and the self inside of you blooms, and you can express her outside.
I think that's really good. And did you find that through connecting with God?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I was on a journey to finding myself,
Right.
I kept, I started to see if I can find myself. I started to find God instead. Wherever I turn, it's all about God's glory, God, marvelous creation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in awe. So to me, it's the other way. If you try to find yourself, you find God. And when you find God, you find yourself.
Right. Oh, isn't that cool? Yes, that's wonderful. Now, your husband, did he see the change in you, and did he change too, or did it affect, how did it affect the marriage?
Well, to be honest, my husband was kind of like not sure what's going on. He didn't know much about postpartum. There was a bit of stigma around it at that time. We're talking, I think, early 2000.
Right.
So he didn't know what was going on, and he couldn't relate to it or help me get out of it. So it was a more of kind of a lonely journey, if you will.
You were on your own. Hey, listen, we got to go commercial break here, but you guys, I'm here today with Iman Al-Zabi. This is her book. I'm holding it up if you're watching me on YouTube. It's really cool. Okay, so what this is, and when we come back, I'm going to read a little bit of it. It's called Finding Grace. These are daily comfort for uncertain times. They're very, very good. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back. Hey, it's Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Iman Al-Zabi. And Iman, if you don't mind, can I read the one for spring? Is that cool? Can we do
Yeah,
that?
for sure.
All right, awesome.
Let's do
All
that.
right, you guys, sit back and relax. I just want to read this. She's a really wonderful writer, and you got to check out this book because these are daily, little readings that will give you inspiration. They're inspirational, okay, and they're spiritual. So it helps you, it makes you think. So here's what she has each season. Let me say that. So I'm going to read spring because we're getting ready to come into spring in a couple days. So spring is a time of renewal and change. Seedlings sprout, trees grow, new leaves and flowers burst forth. No matter how long the winter has been, springtime reminds us that new beginnings are always possible. But springtime is not just about sunshine and bright flowers. The weather is changeable with gusty winds and heavy rain. While its restlessness may seem positive and hopeful, filled with life, it can also challenge us. A late frost can kill tender seedlings. Spring reminds us that the purpose of chaos is to instigate evolution. With this in mind, we can welcome turbulence. Our experience provides opportunities for us to evolve to our fullest potential, and our personal evolution is intimately connected with the evolution of the planet. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
That was really well written because spring, I just wrote an article for a magazine I write for the Eden magazine, and I wrote about spring because spring is like new. Talk about that. I mean, it's a time where we can start over, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can feel the energy in the earth, right? And you can feel it everywhere you go, regardless of what's happening in the world, right? So it's a really profound reminder to all of us that life is still going on, that life renews itself, life is still healing. We have hope. It's all about hope, renewal, rejuvenation, and coming back with a fresh new perspective, coming back with a fresh new start for all of us.
Right. Now you're in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates today, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's it like there with the COVID and the situation with humanity? What's going on? What's the energy like?
Pretty much similar to like everywhere else in the world. So we do have periods of lockdown. We have periods of reduced activity. I am currently working from home. A lot of people are working from home. My kids are doing online schools.
Right.
So, we go out with masks. Masks are mandatory here, of course. Everybody goes out with masks and gloves, and we all being cautious as much as possible. So yeah, it's pretty
It's
much
about
like
the
everywhere
same.
else.
Yeah. How is the yeah, how's the vibration? I mean, are people starting to go within? Are they starting to look for answers like you did, like I have, like a lot of us have, to find the answer, the treasure, which is God. But I mean, have you seen that a lot more?
I have. I think, what happened with COVID, we were all faced with a new, altogether new reality, right?
Right.
And with that reality, there's a sense of doom and gloom. We've all witnessed, experienced that when it started to, the numbers of death have started to rise and people can see death is looking each one of us in the eyes, right? You're always exposing yourself to it when you go out or when you're connecting with others, it seems, right?
Mhm.
So the whole experience of this allows you to evaluate life and allows you to look inside to say, you know what matters to me in this moment?
Mhm.
What is the most important thing? And you cannot, there's no way you cannot decide and not to participate. You cannot decide to just be an observant. This is a time for us to kind of wake up to our purpose,
Right.
to bring in the best that we can. This
Mhm.
is a time for taking action, as you know.
Right. Well,
And
no,
spring is the best time to
do it. Yeah.
move forward with that.
Well, and I think that too. I mean, I think it's time to stand up and all of us stand up for ourselves and what we believe in and what we believe is right.
Mm.
What do you think?
This is an interesting thing you just mentioned, Nancy, because of the perception of truth is pretty much distorted, right? Yeah, I perceive truth differently at this time, where you perceive it differently. You align yourself to a different truth than I do. And it looks like people are congregating around certain values and certain truths, certain groups, right? This makes humanity a lot more divided at this time. But what I would urge people to say is question it.
Right.
Question it before you engage with it. Question it before you say, yes, this is it. Does it align truly with you? Ask the most important questions for you to find out if you're onto something, or if you're just being drawn by either power or whatever it might be, money or whatever it might be.
Are people starting to see, now have you noticed, I have, of course, here in the United States, but I wonder if you have started to see that people are waking up to pay attention, that a lot of the things that the media and the governments have told us is not true.
Yeah, everywhere. And we're all noticing. It looks like it's interesting because it felt like a switch went on all of a sudden,
Right?
and people are able to observe and see what's going on for what it is, and nobody's taking anything for granted anymore. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's why I think it's really important that people stand up and say something. And we all have a choice. It's down to good and evil is what I feel. What do you think, Aman?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. That's where I'm kind of, and interesting what you mentioned right now, because it looks like, what I talked about, the groups and the people and the different relationships of truth versus whatever could be false or evil. Looks like we're going to end up in a space of polarity. Actually, we're moving towards polarity more.
Right.
And polarity means good and evil, right? It means, where do you associate with yourself? And this is a turning point for all of humanity at this moment. Am I associated with what I would call light and positive and goodness? Or am I associated with something probably elusive, but then at the end of the day, I can tell there's some feeling in my gut that tells me this is bad and I shouldn't be associated with it, right?
Well, and I see that like people are easily led, it's almost like the dark attracts more dark, and people are, it's interesting. There's such a divide. I see that the people who are greedy getting greedier and wanting more. And I see the people who are looking for the truth getting lighter and going that way. It's really quite divided, isn't it?
Dramatic. And it's dramatic. You'll see more and more of it. You'll see more and more of that kind of divide. And this is basically the ultimate epic, collision of good and bad, right? And it will keep going on for a while. I don't know to what extent this is going to create a new reality for humanity, but that's what it looks like. We're going to create a new reality for some reason. And it would look something where, I don't know. It depends on where things go with this. But yeah, you're right. It's all about that conflict, the ultimate conflict between good and bad.
Well, and I just want to say, and I want to tell the audience, and I want to get your take on this. As all of this has been going on, I've just been doing my work, and I've been working on balance, and just staying balanced and just doing my thing and just letting it all kind of do, because it's all gonna, but I don't buy into it all. I just stay balanced and stay connected to God. What have you been doing?
Right. I've been in search with more as a kind of sense of purpose, expanding purpose, really looking at how I can contribute. This is critical time. I'm feeling urgency, to be honest.
Well, I know that. I get that, but how are you keeping yourself balanced through all of this?
Oh yeah, this is about what I talk about in my first book, The Art of Surrender, talking about living life by design.
Okay.
So I kind of look at what are my values and then create an environment that reflects my values. For example, connection with nature is essential for me. Number one, that just brings me back to wellness. So I create a beautiful backyard garden that helps me kind of de-stress and recenter myself. A sense of freedom is essential for me. So I create a flexible work schedule around that. So all of these values, if you enact them in your life, you start to feel like, this life feels like me. and it's not, people are not interfering in it, and they're not imposing, right?
Right. Yeah. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think animals too, really help keep
Yeah.
you calm and bring it, back to center too. I think that's awesome that you said that. Even in the wintertime,
Yeah.
even indoor plants, can help because it shows a sign of life and kind of brings more oxygen and makes you feel more centered. I guess I just want to say, I feel like, you have to be aware of what's going on, but you kind of let that go by and don't let it affect you. And I want people to learn that. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. And I think the way, so the antidote to despair is basically taking action. And that's how I see it, right? So
Right.
if you feel there's a sense of despair and helplessness, there is a circle of influence in which you can have a certain amount of influence. If that means, caring for your neighbor who is unable to get their groceries, then that's great, right? If
Mhm.
that means helping an elderly who lives 2 blocks down from you and bringing them whatever they need, then that's great, right? So it's about the circle of influence. What can I do to help improve humanity, or what can I do to help express who I am, right?
Right.
Whether that being teaching, whether that being helping others, whatever that compels you.
Just the
And to
little,
me, that is the antidote. Yeah, exactly. To
yeah.
feeling despair or helpless about the situation. But in terms of recentering, I find prayer essential.
And
Prayer is my number one spiritual practice. I do it in the morning. I do it 5 times a day. Of course, as a Muslim, we do it 5 times a day.
okay.
So that's how I recenter on a daily basis.
Even though you're Muslim and I'm a Christian, I will say we have the same exact thoughts about humanity and what's going on.
Oh yeah, because I believe we both have the same source, which is God,
Absolutely.
and God's
Abs-
spoken to us
Yeah.
through Jesus and spoken to us through
Yes.
Muhammad, through
Yes.
Moses. So it's the
Yes.
same God.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for coming on. I'm so excited. Hey, we got to go to commercial break. You guys, I'm here today with Iman Al-Zabi. This is her book, Finding Grace. I'm sure we can get it at Amazon. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Everywhere.
Amazon.com. Hey, it's Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Aman Al-Zabi. Aman, I'm so glad that you came on today because it makes me realize, and it makes the audience realize, that this same teaching that I talk about every week is something that you're doing. Tell me about your work and what you do.
Can you be specific a little bit? Which
Oh, I
aspect of
mean,
it are
like,
you
do you
referring
do,
to?
I'm sorry, do you do like healing? Do you do energy healing, or do you do counseling, or do you do intuitive readings for
Yeah.
people? Are you, what do you do
Yeah.
to help your clients? I know you're a coach, like you're a motivational coach, right? So what exactly do you do?
Sure. I call myself transformational coach more than a
Okay.
motivational one.
Okay.
But in a session that I would give to clients, basically we go inward and go deep.
Mhm.
And as soon as we go deep, we look at the root causes of whatever that is bothering that specific client. And we look at energy healing to transform them. So I use multiple tools, and it's all about the actual process of transformation. So we move from insight to action to transformation. The insight happens with me facilitating the client going inward and kind of grasping to what does it look like, and then we move into how can we move forward, how can we heal, and we work with trauma if that gets in the way, or whatever is needed. So it's an intricate, complicated process, but it happens organically, and it happens as part of the desire of every client wanting to heal themselves from whatever that is happening. Yeah.
Now, do you do hands-on healing, energy healing?
No, I
No.
do energy healing, but I do it through a guided, not even guided visualization, but it's pretty much guided imagery, symbolism, all these things. So as I said, it's a set of tools.
Interesting.
Um, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just took a class. I had a lady on my show a couple weeks ago, Penny Lavin. Her and her husband do. They teach a course in energy healing, and I took one of their workshops because I've done energy healing before. You don't actually. You can put your hands on people, but you can also use it.
No need. The client is a person who heals themselves, and so
Right.
I facilitate that. So I'm already aware of the
Ah,
principles
I
of
see.
healing, right? So once you know how energy moves,
Right.
once you know how it kind of releases itself, all
Okay.
you have to do is be with them in that moment and guide them what to do and where to go. And we just do the that's why I call myself transformational coach, because we do the transformation in that moment, right? So they
Okay.
release the trauma, they release whatever is bothering them,
I
and we
love
move
it.
to the next thing. Yeah.
So you pretty much like scan their body and you can tell, and then they tell you at the same time, kind of that type of
I
thing.
used to do it that way, and then I felt like I was more like a teller type of person, and I hated that. I just don't
Well,
want to be the
I'm a
person telling
psychic.
them.
You can't hate us
I
now.
don't want to be the person telling them, sorry. But it was more about
You wanted them to do it.
client taking ownership. I am with them
Yeah.
on, like, guiding them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
That's
I get that. I get that because what you're saying is, and let me just make sure I'm clear so the audience is clear. So you have the ability, like I do, to scan somebody and see where their areas are, where their issues are. And then, but now what you learned is if they scan their body and figure it out themselves, it's easier for them to release it. Is that right?
right. And I'll be aware, I'll be like with them on the same wavelength, and I would
Right.
see stuff and tell
Right.
them, why don't you do this, or why don't you do that? So my intuition is
Okay.
on that
Got it.
specific issue. I
You're
am
so
reading
funny.
them, if you will. But just letting them do the work.
I know. I don't want to be known as a
Yeah.
fortune teller either. I always say my messages come from God because they do. And that's where I get my messages. But I just think it's great. Now, this is your second book. What inspired you to write this? Because I will tell you, I love books like this because you go through and you guys, you have these things that you can just read every day and it just kind of gives you that little bit of, I don't know, uplift that you need. So what inspired this?
Well, to be honest, as I was experiencing life myself, right, I
Mhm.
would feel like, there's something shifting. There's a change. And if you see, the book is published, I think it was 2019,
Was it?
before the
Okay.
pandemic.
Okay. You just
Yeah.
felt it. Yeah.
And I felt like there's something
Yeah.
shifting, something changing.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can I as a person find grace myself, right?
Mhm.
And I felt like needing those constant reminders to bring me back to center, to bring me back to myself, were essential as part of my spiritual practice. So
Okay.
hence the book, was born into this.
Wonderful. Now, have you had really good feedback?
It seems, yes. So far so good. I
Okay.
mean, you know my main work lies in the first book, to be honest, The Art of Surrender. So finding grace is actually inspired by prominent things that I've said in The Art of Surrender.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a continuation of that.
We'll have to have you back and talk about the art of surrender. And that was the first book where you talk about how to find yourself, how to go within.
Yes, it's more like how to go on the journey of enlightenment and how to find God and yourself. It's just, yeah.
What do you think about organized religion now that it seems like everybody's really gotten away from it?
It's their call. I'm still in it. I'm still part of,
I mean, I just wonder, it
I'm
seems
still
like
in it, and I choose to be.
you choose to be in it. I just feel like people are looking, maybe I should rephrase that. I just feel like here in the United States, a lot of people have been really disillusioned with the Catholic Church. And I feel like a lot of people who are Christians still definitely go to church, but people don't really want to be preached at. They want, I think, to be told the truth. Um, and so I see more
Yeah.
people searching for the truth, which in like you talk about, and I guess this is what I do too. I look at all different religions to look for the truth of the matter. So I guess maybe I should
Hmm.
say that I see more people searching for the truth of what's real and what's not. A lot of things that we've been told are not the truth.
Yes, I agree that there are some elements in organized religion that may not be based in truth. I completely agree. Now, your role as a person would be to go on a spiritual inquiry journey, to ask the most important fundamental questions, to find the answers for yourself, but to understand that everything is going to be like a puzzle, right? And the pieces, is more your insights, they will come together, and you will have, by the end of it, you'll have a really reasonable understanding of yourself, how the universe operate, and who God is, right? Who crafted and created this marvelous universe.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice to people is to go on that journey for yourself. But
Right.
if you land at the doorstep of a specific religion and you feel compelled to move towards that, by all means, this is your choice, right? And that's what happened to me. I came back full circle to my own religion. So I was raised in it. But
Okay.
then I never got out of it, never denounced it for sure.
Right.
But I was kind of distracted by, not being happy to be preached on, not being happy to be kind of mechanical, and everything is out of habit. And after the anxiety and depression, I got deeper and deeper, and then I started to ask more questions, and it just keeps bringing me back to higher and bigger truth. And so now I embrace it full-heartedly. I embrace it knowing, yes, I am on the right path. I love it, and I am very satisfied as a human being.
Right.
But if you're not feeling satisfied, it means this is your soul telling you, hey, you gotta keep going with the search. You gotta find the right, what I call spiritual nest for yourself.
That's true. And I think, like I said, I think we're all searching. And I love how you say you've come full circle, you come all the way around. And I agree with that, because I can see that, gosh, in my 40s, I was looking at everything else. And of course, now in my 50s, I'm like, oh, I do go back to the Christian religion, but then I'm still open-minded on certain things too, because I love reading in the news that they found more books. I always feel like there's more to know that we don't know. I always love it when they discover, things like that, because it just, I don't know, it brings about more information that maybe would help us in humanity. Yes. Are you still with me there, Iman? Okay.
Hello?
Looks like, are you still there? Okay, we're going to go to commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to have our last episode with Iman. Hey, you guys, her book is called Finding Grace. And this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. And we will be right back. Hi, it's Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. We're talking about finding grace. It looks like I lost Iman here. I don't know what happened. She is coming to me from Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. So our connection is not that terrific, but I will say that her book is fantastic, Finding Grace, Daily Comfort for Uncertain Times. And looks like, let me see if she's going to be able to come back in and join us again. Iman, are you there?
Hi, I'm sorry I dropped off for some reason.
Oh,
So I'm
that's
back.
okay. That's okay. Hey, we're on our last, segment of the show. What is it that you would like to tell the audience that can help us right now?
I'm really open to where you want to take the conversation. As you know, I've been stating my truth as you ask these questions, so
Yeah.
I'm fine wherever you want to take us.
Wherever I want to go. Okay. So, we are at a point where you talked about prayer, and do you also meditate? I would imagine you do.
I used to, but again, I went through a journey of really understanding.
Oh, okay.
This is tricky to talk
Well, yeah.
about, but I'm sorry.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Oh, so I was a heavy meditator. And
Okay.
when I say heavy, I mean heavy. I'd spend not like a Buddhist, of course, but I used to spend a lot of time in my day, just meditating, looking at energy, tracking energy, looking at what would it look like, going into the spiritual realm for a long time. And that just made me feel spacey and out of touch with reality. And then I looked at, I asked God. I remember one day it was blurry for me. I don't know if this is going to be recorded, but this is between you and me kind of
Yeah,
thing.
we are recording.
I asked God to help. Oh, we are.
We are recording, but you can you can tell the audience
Off
if
the
you want.
record. No, it's a little bit complicated. I prefer we cut that out.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm curious. I guess my biggest question is, it's always been difficult for me to meditate, but I have started to meditate in the last few years, and it's really been helpful. And that's the time that I connect with God and get my messages and get the information that I need for myself. So I wonder, since you stopped it, how do you calm your mind and how do you receive your messages, I guess?
Interesting. Yes. Here's the deal. If you are connected internally to your soul, you
Mhm.
have instant communication. You've already established that line of communication, right?
Mhm.
And if you're connected with God, you've already established that line of communication. It's all about your spiritual practice and your intentions and what
Okay.
you want to achieve, right?
Right.
For me personally, if I want to gain insight immediately, it's all about kind of asking the question, gaining insight internally. It comes right up. It's about getting the right tools to be able to access the inner realm. You don't need to meditate for hours, by the way. So
Right.
this is one of the things that I've discussed. You don't need to meditate for hours. You don't need to wait for the answer to arrive. You don't need for a dream for the answers to come. No, it's something where you practice with discipline how to connect inward very quickly, get the answer, move on. Simple.
Right. Mhm. Well, and I do, God, I guess I do it right. Because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I'm not going to sit there for hours, and I don't. And I do my meditation and I go within and I bring in the light and I ground down to Mother Earth. I'm just telling you what I do. And then
Yeah,
I
I
quiet
used to
my
do that.
yeah, and but I only do it, I do like 10, 15 minutes and I get my information and I say my prayers and then I move on. And whatever
Mm.
information I get, it's something I was supposed to get and I just take note. Like yesterday, I'll give an example. Yesterday did my 10-minute meditation and I was supposed to contact two friends. And so I did. And even halfway through the day, it's like, oh, I gotta contact those two friends because I wouldn't have got that information if I wasn't supposed to. So I guess I want to say when you do get the information, make sure you follow through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's there to change your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people don't take it seriously and they don't do it. And you have to, because when you get a message like that and you are connected to the divine, it's important.
This is where it's going to make the difference between living life according to your soul and its values and when you're not aligned to who you are. So that's just, to me, it comes down to that. If it's time for healing, if it's time for you to reach out, it's time for you to forgive, by all means you have to do it. Otherwise, you won't find the happiness that you're seeking.
Right. So you get up in the morning and you pray instead of the meditation.
Oh yeah, prayer, and I read one which is in your religion and scripture, and I'm connected in my heart in that moment. And then my day starts,
I love
of
it.
course, with exercise and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about the kids? How old are your kids?
My kids are sort of like teenagers and adults.
Yeah. Oh, okay. They're getting old. So are
20
they
years old.
into it? Like, do they practice or or do they, it's hard, at that age. I just wonder.
They're all praying. So if you asking about prayer, all my kids are praying.
Oh,
So they
cool.
all pray their 5 prayers a day,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and they all read the Quran. So that's embedded
Okay.
the way we operate as a family. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I think
So
that's really
they're
cool.
always
Well,
reminded by the messages of God and being surrounded by that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the most important thing we can do is encourage our children and make them feel important and teach them values and teach them all these different things. I think a lot of people, and I want to know your thoughts on this, um, don't know about how to connect to God and just don't know. They just don't have the knowledge or they weren't taught. Do you feel that?
Yes, I think so, but it all comes down to not having a good understanding of who God is. So that's where people get lost, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't know who God is, therefore they can't make that connection. If you know who your mother is, you know how to connect with her, right? You know, this is my mom. I can see her, I can feel her, I can feel her presence. She gives me those feelings of compassion and love and connection, right? Now, with God, on the other hand, He's created a universe in which your main, I talk about two laws in the first book, the law of evolution and the law of beginning. So
Okay.
the law of evolution allows you to evolve as a human being, and that's where you get experiences and traumas and things that happen in your life to allow you to come to your full self. So it's all about evolving so you could become who you are. The law of awakening is all about coming back to God, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about when you wake up spiritually, so you ask the big questions of life, you want to connect to a bigger sacred kind of force in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and you're seeking. So that's what the law of awakening kind of kicking in and allowing you to go on that search process. Some people cut it off, of course, prematurely. Some people feel lost. Some people feel like they don't know where to go and what to do. But
Right.
the main thing is to really not ignore that nudging inside of you and keep asking questions and pray to whoever you feel like, that you're not aware of at the moment. But the simplest thing is like to the being, or to the being that has created me, that brought this universe into being, that brought me and everybody else that I can see who looks like me. And we're all one species, right? Who brought all of humanity together. I want you to help me find you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important to ask. I think people sometimes are afraid to ask. And it's interesting. Since I've been doing the show, I've had a lot of people tell me that at night before they go to bed and they pray and they ask. And it seems like,
Mm.
yes, and they get their answers. And I always find that, and so I've been doing that too. I do these shows and I listen to what people do, and it seems to have really helped them. And that's one thing that's worked. What do you think?
Absolutely. Ask and you shall receive.
There you
And
go.
power, I mean, prayer is power, prayer is power.
It is. It's the power, and I'm big on the spoken word. My book, you probably don't know this, is "Wake Up, the Universe is Speaking to You," and I talk about energy,
Mhm.
and I talk about the power of the spoken word. And something I'm really working on, and I'll throw this out to the audience, is what you say to other people, what you think all day long, because what you think about and what you say creates your reality. And so if you want to be a little happier, think happy thoughts. That's one in one of the Disney movies where they say, oh, think happy thoughts. Is that Peter Pan when he's learning to fly? But it's really true, because what you think and what you say makes a difference. What do you think?
I think the whole universe started with the spoken word, right? God said, be, and it became, right?
Mhm.
So we understand that from the spoken word, there's so much that could happen. By uttering the words, that means you have put forth the intention, right? And
Right.
when you put forth the intention, that's where energy flows. It flows where your intention is.
That's
And
right.
that's when you feel like there's momentum and there's movement and there's action.
Right.
So it's all power. Yeah.
You're really, really knowledgeable. It's so cool that you came to see me today, Iman. Will you come back? You're going to have to come back with your book, Art of Surrender. What do you
I'd
think?
love that. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. You guys, she has wonderful, wonderful um, daily I call them, they're kind of like affirmations. Or
Yeah, let's end with a
inspiration.
quote if you like.
Yeah, I was gonna read one if that's okay.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
So here we go. We'll do this one. All is well. There is nothing you need that is not given to you. I'm gonna do one more. Can you set the intention to create an opening for your true self to speak to you? Oh, I love that. I love it. You did really well, Iman. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Nancy. It was great talking to you. I really
You too.
appreciate it.
How can people get in contact with you?
I'm available at imanalzabi.com. It's EIMANALZAABI.com.
Okay.
The books are sold on Amazon and wherever the books are sold.
Okay. All right. Thanks again for coming on. Hey, you guys, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week, and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goal.